نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربي زدني علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين آمين يا رب العالمين. Okay, inshallah, I will just share the screen. Give me 2 seconds, inshallah. Okay, it's coming now. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So last time we covered ayat number 47 and 48, and we talked about the concept of history in the Quran, like the reason why we learn history and how we learn history is a bit different from in the Quran is how we learn history everywhere else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give us the dates and the details that are not necessary for us, but only the details that are necessary for us, and there are lessons in them for us. So, anybody remembers anything from last week? So we talked about these two ayahs that Ya Bani Israel, udkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum wa anni faddaltukum ala al-alamin. O children of Israel, remember my favor that I bestowed upon you and that I preferred you over all the worlds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given a blessed position, a position of honor and respect, of a spiritual leadership to Bani Israel, who were equivalent of Muslims at that time. So they were the Muslims of that time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and fear the day, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا لَا تَجْزِي. Fear a day when it will not avail nafsun and nafsin, no soul shall be accountable or shall help any soul anything at all, and it will and any intercession will not be accepted unless Allah wills, and no compensation will be taken, nor will they get any help. So any thoughts on that from last week? If anybody thought during the week anything?
I think I have one question, but maybe it's not. I don't know if I'm supposed to ask the question because I know we're supposed to believe that the prophet, peace be upon him, was the last prophet, and we just should go with it and not question it. But just because I'm new, I would have a question, because we were talking that every group of people throughout the ages, they were tested, and the non-believers had to face some punishment, and they had to just, I mean, their fate was not necessarily interesting. Like with Noah, there was flood, and there were many other events like that, and then so this was some kind of pattern, like every group of people was tested and punished if they weren't obedient. And my question would be, since Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the last prophet, and since then we had no prophets, we are, even though we're still being tested, why that pattern changed after him? Why that pattern changed, and we had no prophets no more? Plus, do you think we're still being punished in any significant way? Like, could COVID, for example, be looked at as this kind of punishment, or this kind of cataclysm or something, or although tsunamis, some kind of hurricanes or tornadoes, earthquakes? Do you think that would be the equivalent for those punishments, or what do you think or know about it?
MashaAllah, that's a very good question. Very, very good question.
Thank you.
And one thing before I tell the answer from my own limited perspective, obviously, one thing is that you can ask any question whatsoever. There's no such thing as you're not supposed to ask any question. So ask literally anything under the sun at any time. I'm totally fine with it. And if I don't know the answer, I'll be very honest with you, and I'll just say, Give me a week. I'll research and I'll ask people who are more knowledgeable than me and get back to you.
Of
But
course.
this one I will answer from my own perspective. But if you're not satisfied and if you think you need more details, then I'll obviously get answer from people who know more than me. Um,
Sure.
so one thing is, yes, there was so different people. If we just look at the timeline in a very brief way, obviously, if we look at the human history in that sense, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the first human being, Adam alayhi salam, and he gave them the message of there is one God, worship one God. And then different times, different prophets came with the same message. As people would start on the same message and slowly deviations would come in any group of people. And as deviations would come, they would get corruption and other things would increase and increase and increase to the point that now this, like, if you look at any one nation, for example, like say for example the nation of Shoaib alayhi salam, that was one of the prophets, and at his time the problem was there was a lot of corruption in business practices to the point that everyone was cheating everyone else and the corruption was going on and on and on until it became like very very bad, like that sort of a thing. But and their punishment is due. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He's so loving and merciful, He wouldn't just punish a nation, although they have become deserving of punishment. They are cheating each other. They are not worshipping the God that that they're not worshipping the one God. They started worshipping idols, or they started worshipping so many things. They're doing all kinds of sins and bad things, and the punishment's due. But before giving them any punishment, Allah Ta'ala, in His mercy, would send a prophet who tried to remind them and bring them back. So it's not that the prophet came and then they were tested and then the punishment. They were already doing, they were into a lot of sins. And because of those sins, some punishment was due. But because God loves all of us, He would send a prophet. And this is obviously before the last prophet. The prophets would come and they'll give the message. But prophet was not just any other. A prophet is like, if you can think of in a modern day terms, like any country would send a diplomat to another country. Now that diplomat, what happens is that diplomat is a representative of that country. So, for example, if Canada sends a diplomat to say somewhere to India, right? If Canada is sending a diplomat to India, now that diplomat, the how people treat that diplomat in India um, is a show of how they are, how much respect they have for Canada or how much they want the relationships with Canada, right? It's kind of reflective of that. So God is the King of Kings, right? He's the ruler of all rulers. He's the creator of mankind, creator of the whole universe. So he doesn't communicate to each and every person individually. He communicates through the prophets. So prophets are those special people, whether it was Adam or Noah or there have been several prophets, Joseph and which is like, and Yaqub alayhi salam and all those people, whether it's biblical names or Islamic names, we can call them whatever names. But basically, all these prophets, they came to save the people. And when the prophets came to convince the people, sometimes Allah Ta'ala gave the prophets some miracles and everything as well. And when these people saw the miracles, and by their own eyes, they're seeing a miracle and they are witnessing a miracle, like for example, a dead person's rising from the dead, or somebody, or like when Jesus or Isa alayhi salam, when he came and there's a born leper and he's just touching the person and healing that person. And people used to be in his time, in the time of Isa alayhi salam, for example, Jesus, medicine was a big deal. People were trained a lot in medicine and everything. So people realized as soon as he's healing the people just by a touch, people knew this is a miracle because they were very advanced in their medical knowledge at that time. So they're like, okay, this is a miracle. They could recognize it very well. And then, even after recognizing a miracle and understanding it, when they still rejected it at the time of Prophet, then the punishment that came was a punishment that was a mass level of destruction. So this was not like a small punishment or like a, so basically the whole nations being destroyed, right? Whether it was Lut al-Islam's time or Lot, whether it was the time of Noah when it was the great floods. So it was like the nations all together. So it was a collective sort of a punishment, and very severe sort of a punishment, because they've got reminders. Then a prophet has come to convince them. The prophet gave convincing proofs that their heart got convinced. They recognized the truth. And then they rejected it and tried to harm the prophet. So in many cases, they tried to kill the prophets. In some cases, they even killed the prophets. Like some of the prophets were even killed, like at the history of Bani Israel. We will read about it slowly. So they even, and the prophet said, okay, this is a sign of Allah. For example, Saleh alayhi salam, there was a camel, and it was said, okay, this camel, this is a miraculous camel. It actually came out of the mountain, and it was like, take care of this camel. This is a sign from God. And they killed that camel, right? So, and when they did, not just its sins, but they were defiant, then there were punishment. And despite the prophet being there, then it was not just any kind of punishment, then it was like a very severe kind of punishment. And obviously, because the last prophet's gone, that kind of punishment is not going to come for now. Now, the biggest level of thing that humans will witness would be the day of judgment in that sense, right? But that said, that kind of a destruction will not happen. But again, there are tests that will happen in each of our lives, whether it'll be at a personal level or at a national level or at a like a community level or something. So there have been some talks recently about whether this COVID is a punishment from God, or whether it's like there's a lot of conspiracy theories going on as well, whether it's like the vaccine's going to come in which there's going to be a microchip, and there's going to be like there's lots kind of theories we hear every day. So we don't know. Allah knows the best what's going on. It could be a punishment, lot of but a minor punishment. If we think of the previous punishments that came when people rejected the prophets and did defiance, actually we will learn that in a lot of history of Bani Israel, as they like what they did and how did they do it, and those things, why did they deserve so much punishment and everything. But what happens now is, now there's no prophet, but we are supposed to do our work as Muslims. I'm talking about Muslims for now, not the whole all the people. We are supposed to do our work, and when we don't do our work, when we don't follow our commandments, when we're not honest, when we are not caring, when we're not taking care of our spiritual duties, of like taking inviting people to Islam, following Islam first ourselves. A lot of people are not following Islam themselves. Then the kind of punishment that comes is other people overpower them. Like the punishment on believers is that they are overpowered by other people and they're oppressed, and they go through those kind of punishments. And we will see that in the history of Bani Israel as well as we go on, for quite a few weeks now, for quite a few, probably like 2 or 3 months, we'll go through the history of Bani Israel and different incidents. So they were the Muslims of that time in that sense, but they were oppressed by another nation. Some other nation would take care and they would be massacred. Sometimes they would be killed. And but again, punishments could be the troubles that we face now. It could be a punishment. It could be a test also. Like it's we don't know for sure whether it's a punishment, but the same thing could be a punishment for someone, and there could be a good in it for some. So for this COVID, for example, this time has led to so many people getting closer to God, because their whole lifestyle have changed. Somebody was had a very different kind of a life, and now they become closer to God. For some other people, they have become even more like they're missing all their entertainment, and they're missing all, and they're just waiting for things to go away so that they can go full on into that, right? So they're getting away from God, like, or they're having other punishments. So it's the same event now. This is not a communal kind of a major catastrophe for a community which is going to be destroyed completely, but this is some kind of it could be some kind of a test, and it could also be a punishment for some, and it could be a means of respite for some, because it will lead to some kind of a what where are you heading? Like if something comes in our life which is hard for us, which is troublesome for us, and which causes a lot of pain, whether it's physical or emotional or whatever, then one thing is, where is it leading us to? If it is leading us to getting closer to God, then that's good for us, even if it is hard. But if it is taking us away from God, then it's hard for us. And we learned in the beginning of Surah Baqarah, this what happens with a lot of people is, we learned a few ayat about, there were examples of people, there were two actually, two metaphors which were given in the beginning of Surah Baqarah. So if you just read the translation sometime later. So what these people did was, it's like there's lightning and somebody's spreading the light and they're closing their eyes despite seeing the light. So there's a lot of thing about that. What I will do is I will also send you in the group. I'll send you another audio in which one of the sheikhs explained this really well. That if uh, this COVID, you can think of it as a punishment or not, especially with respect to COVID. But other things, tsunami and whatever else happens, if we are a part of it, we think of ourselves, we take stock of ourselves, and we see, okay, have I done something wrong? If I have, God forgive me, and we have that personal conversation with God. Um, and if it is coming on somebody else, then we don't judge them because it might be a punishment for them, it might be a blessing in disguise for them. So what Islam teaches us is basically don't, now that there's no other prophet and there's no, the final prophet's also not amongst us to kind of tell us for sure what's going on. So we don't know for sure, but we, for us, for ourselves, we keep asking for forgiveness. For other people, we say Allah knows best, and we ask Allah to guide them. We just don't judge other people. So I don't know if that, I'm trying to shorten the whole thing. It's a big topic. I've tried to say it in short, but I hope you're getting the gist of it. But I will send you another audio in which one of the scholars, he's discussed it in respect to the COVID, especially in a bit more detail, whether it's a punishment or whether it's a conspiracy or whatever is going on. Does that make a bit of sense? A little bit?
Yes, thank you very much. It was a lot to that helped me, understand deeper than this topic. And another question that this question led to would be, well, personally, usually people have live through life, and their parents are able to witness their growth and their failures and anything else. And I'm 25, and my father recently passed, and he been sick for over 12 years for genetic disease, Pompe disease. And uh, I had, like you said, if something affects us, like some kind of tsunami, then we ask ourselves, we have the reflections whether we did something wrong, or it was just, I don't want to say coincidence because there's no such thing, but, or, it's nothing that we did wrong, but it just hit. And I've been asking myself same questions about my dad, whether because he was the most loving dad, but he had his worst days, and I wonder, he been always, before he died, said that um, his illness, which was fatal eventually, was a punishment for the way he sometimes been, and I wonder, and we've been telling him that he shouldn't, feel that way. And it is what it is, and I was especially telling him he should just reflect on it and just regret it, like from the bottom of his heart, and that would be probably enough, and but I've been thinking whether, him dying could be a punishment to him, for him, or is just that Allah willed for him to die this soon, with no reason, or whether it was some kind of whether it was connected to my life, why I lost my dad so soon, and we just reconnected in March. He cried to me, I cried to him, we said everything. He was already not able to even walk or sit. He was in bed 24 hours, 7 times a week, and he had those deepest ever reflections on life, on whatever deeds he did. And we had extremely touching conversation that brought us extremely close together, and which I'm extremely thankful for, obviously, but the thing is, I don't know why my dad is not in my life anymore, what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm
Mm,
sorry, first of all, for your loss, and
thank
but
you.
I'm glad that you connected. Alhamdulillah, that must have been such
Yes.
a big relief for you that you got to do that before he passed away. But
Oh,
one thing
yes.
I would like to add is that there is some things at punishment, but there are also tests of life, like each person in their own life. And we all have different tests, but each one of us, without fail, have our own tests and our own things that we deal with. In fact, the prophets, which used to be the best of people, with the highest of morals and the best of characters, the best of manners, the the best of religion. They were teaching preaching religion, in fact, directly from God. They would get conversation directly from God, but they faced all these things that we are facing. The Prophet Muhammad, for example, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was born an orphan. His father passed away before he was born. Like his mom was pregnant when the father passed away, and he never met his dad throughout his life, right? And his mother passed away when he was just 7 year old, right? And then his grandfather took care of him, and two years later, 2 or 3 years later, his grandfather, who was taking care of him, passed away. And then his uncle started taking care of him, and who passed away much later on, but then his uncle took care of him. So he never really met his dad or anything, but that doesn't mean it was a punishment for him. It was a test for him, because in this life we're all tested. And he when he went through like, obviously he was a different person, but then going through this phase and being an orphan when he was born would have like given him so much compassion and so much kindness for people who were orphans, as he wrote. And it was said he had a special love for all the orphans, and he would take care of children so much. He would like, so it's like his own pain. It's like different people react to pain in different ways. Some people take it internally and get bitter, and even more bitter. Some people, if for example, if some people are abused, they turn into bullies and they start bullying other people. Other people, when they are abused, when they get out of that cycle of abuse, they of healing for not just themselves but also other people. So it's like we are all handed our own struggles in life. And yes, at times we do think that, okay, maybe I did something wrong, and we ask forgiveness. But then once we ask God for forgiveness with our clear heart, then we believe that He accepted my forgiveness, and we move on. We don't keep like Islam doesn't teach us to keep like pondering over it and saying, "Oh my God, I did wrong and I'm a failure," or what's happening. Like we learned from the story of Adam alayhi salam, a mistake is done. You understand a mistake, you seek forgiveness for a mistake, and then you move on. Because as soon as we ask forgiveness for a mistake, we believe that, and we have our full belief that our God is so loving that when we have asked from our sincere heart, He's forgiven us, right? So that as terms of punishment go, so that's why there's such a big deal of asking for forgiveness from God is a big deal in our religion. Another thing is that, like I was saying, the tests in different people's life, like one of the prophets, Ayub alayhi salam, he had a lot of sickness. So he had like a lot of children, he had a lot of wealth and everything, and then one time he got sick to such a level that he got really really sick, and he lost all his money, all his children passed away, and his only and people would not visit him anymore because he was so sick. So that's a pattern with sickness, right? When you get so sick, people don't want to see you anymore. People like he got that level of sick that he was just bedridden. All he could do was he could just move his mouth and just say talk. That's it. He couldn't do anything else. He was on the bed for years altogether, right? And only thing was his wife would work and support him and take care of him. She would go out and work in people's houses and come back and then take care of him. And she was the only one taking care. And he was literally so sick that he was, and in that sickness as well, he kept thanking God that, oh God, like you were there for me though. You were, and like you are still there. And there's a lot of rewards for a sick person who's believing in our faith too. Like so much so that if somebody's sick and that person's a believer and I am a believer and I go and visit that person in their sickness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all my sins for my going to visit that person. So taking care of somebody who's sick with a kind heart and going to visit them, taking care of them, that has a lot of rewards in Islam. It's like it's a very very big deal to do that, right? And Ayub al Islam, he was so sick, and there are some duas of his that are recorded in the Quran that he made duas and everything, and later on he was blessed again. But the whole story, like for different prophets, we learn different stories in the Quran, and we'll come to the story of Ayyub alayhi salam, not in Surah Baqarah, but much later in the Quran. I'll send you separately a link for his story, and that would help you, inshallah. But the thing with every prophet, when we go through their stories, we find something relatable to ourselves that we go through. And in so much sickness, how did he behave? What did he do? What was their lessons? And in Ayyub alayhi salam's story, we don't learn anything else except his sickness. Like for different prophets, like Musa alayhi salam, there's a big mission. He had to go to the pharaohs, and he had to talk to the pharaohs. Isa alayhi salam, he had to deal with the corrupt rabbis of his time, and different people had different situations to deal with. What we know about Ayyub alayhi salam, the only thing we know about is his sickness. So even sickness is a big trial. It's not easy. It's a big trial, and it's a trial from God. Very true, it's a trial from God. But what does that do to you? That's the thing. Regarding your dad, Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. When individually speaking, like we can talk about a concept, but we don't we can't say specifically about one person because we don't know when your dad was passing away, what was there in his heart. Maybe his heart had turned into a believer, even if it was 5 minutes before he passed away. Who knows? Like we don't know, so we can't say for sure. As a daughter, you can pray for him, you can ask the best for him, but we don't know for sure. We cannot pass a judgment about, and even ourselves or anybody else, whether it was good for him or bad for him, or whether it was a punishment or whether it was blessings, we don't know. But in a general sense, we can say that sometimes punishments are sometimes hardships. Let's not say punishment. Sometimes hardships could be a punishment. In that case, it is a reminder for us, and we should go back. And sometimes it's a blessing in disguise for us, which takes us back to Allah, which gives us the thing. Sometimes it also turns people more and more bitter. And but your father broke down, and he spoke to you. That's a big indication that there was softness had come to his heart. So something, Allah knows the best, right?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
and like Sister Thyra said, yes, when we are sick, our sins are forgiven continuously. Um, and I know of some people actually, like I know of somebody, and I would share that with you all. I don't mind sharing. There was somebody whom I knew, and um, this lady, she was very old, but she had so much sickness before she passed away. And in there's a hadith to the effect of, and when she passed away, we were like looking at different hadith and different things, because some people got dreams about her which were like really really good dreams, and like she's in a good place and that. So we were wondering um, what's going on. And then we found out the hadith to the effect of that there are different kind of shaheed, a martyr in Islam. And yes, there are people who sacrifice themselves for the sake of Allah, but a person who dies from a plague, which includes something like COVID, sometimes some person who passes away because of a stomach disease, and there's a long, it has a few different other categories too. So that person's also regarded as a martyr. So your levels, not just your sins are forgiven, but if you're a believer and you have patience during your sickness, your level in paradise can also keep increasing. And like there are many levels in paradise, and basically you kind of you're jumping up your levels. It's like a quick way to jump your levels up. So Allah Ta'ala might want somebody's levels to be raised when He decrees sickness for them. Maybe their levels are being increased in paradise, and they're getting higher and higher because of the patience that they're having. So, and Allah knows best, obviously.
Nidhi, do you have 1 minute? Can I say something?
Sure, please go ahead.
I don't know what the coincidence. My little sister Ali and myself, we have a lot in common. And my father, when I was young, he was like, no education, nothing, nothing, nothing. Not quite supportive. I don't want to hold this against him, and Allah Ta'ala should not hear this one. And but by the time I got my education, I got to my residency to United States. By the time he saw me practicing, suddenly I got a phone call from India stating that he passed. I was totally, totally shocked. He was young. And then I realized he could have had a massive heart attack, and he passed. So at that time, for months and months and months and months, I was in the beginning stages with Allah Ta'ala at that time with the communication. And
Same.
I, months and months and months and months, I cried. I asked Allah Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala, why? And I try to understand in Allah Ta'ala's divine knowledge what is there in this will. And Allah Ta'ala, I don't know, taking that one piece of the puzzle out of our life, straightened many things out. And I don't know what Allah Ta'ala's will is for him. But next, my mother. And I have two people who I love a lot. They took care of me in my childhood, my grandfather and my mother. And my grandfather passed in July last year, suddenly stroke and rapid deterioration. So I had to go. I came back, and within a couple of months, my mom was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is a very aggressive blood cancer. And by the time I went to India, she was in such a horrible state, and I was crying, crying, crying. But I was crying in a way this time that I knew whatever is Allah Ta'ala's will, that is going to happen, and let that happen to her. I was crying with sadness, but at the same time, I had this thing in my heart. So I was in a different kind of state. I don't know how to explain that. But I was crying nonstop and praying for her and asking Allah Ta'ala to decrease the pain. So my mom is a very, very strong person. She grew up as a single lady in India after marriage, and she brought me up in India. I'm a girl child in India, and she, as a single woman, she went to college after getting married and separating with my father. College, jobs, working with little bit of money. She helped me with my education. She's a strong woman, and she has strong opinions and thoughts. And I was talking about, when I talk about, she saw me from the beginning, going towards monotheism. And she was very strong and firm about her own beliefs. But this thing turned her around. This thing softened her heart. When she was on that bed, I even remind her, even today, Ma, remember? You were on the deathbed and Allah Ta'ala lifted you up from that state. When you had that fever of 105 and you didn't know what's happening with your body, you were laying just like that on the bed. Allah Ta'ala was the one who was with you with all his angels. And Allah Ta'ala helped you. And she softened, and she had a lot of changes in her perspectives about life. And she accepted Islam, but still she's into strong faith with the idols and Hinduism. Little bit, once in a while those things keep coming, but she remembers her time, and once in a while I remind her of that. And I don't know, and I felt that when there was that much of illness, I thought like maybe Allah Ta'ala forgives their sins through that illness and that suffering, whatever they go through, to give them a better position later on and give them a chance or for changing or whatever. That's what I thought. Allahu Alam, Allah Ta'ala knows the best, our loving Allah Ta'ala. And that's what my experience was.
Wow. So even if our parents, weren't Muslims, we still can pray for them, and and they were maybe um, there were trials that would either make them closer to him or further.
I don't know what in Allah Ta'ala's knowledge it is, but I still continue to pray. I don't know. Maybe Allah Ta'ala will hear my prayer for a second and Allah Ta'ala might change his mind. I don't know. I only have faith on the attributes of Allah Ta'ala, that Allah Ta'ala is Ar-Rahman,
Yes.
Ar-Rahim. So I only keep faith in that, and I don't let my mind deviate with anything else. And I keep praying. Even if one soul is saved from that hellfire, it's so much. It is so
Yes.
much because the suffering is immense.
Yes, because like every time when I pray, and I noticed it from the first prayer, which was very imperfect, obviously, and I was reading still from the paper, but since that moment, I felt such comfort in my heart because being that close during the prayer, I felt also closer to my dad. And every time, after I finish, I say, please tell him that I miss him so much. And for some reason, I don't know, it's it feels like it's happening. Like like that message will go to him. I don't know. Strange.
Nothing's hard for Allah Ta'ala, like nothing's hard. We have
Yes.
a very limited perspective, but we don't know. He will do what's the best, and he knows what's in our heart. If he's guided us to Islam, he knows what's in our heart. And I know people have different opinions about this, but my parents have not yet accepted Islam as well. I keep trying, but not yet.
Same.
But I don't know what will happen. Like we don't know. We keep trying, and um, I was actually, I'll share something else. I was going for Umrah a few years ago, and in 2017. And when I was going, I asked one of my mentors, who's also my teacher, and she's an alima of, like, she's an Islamic scholar as well. And I said, you know what, they're not yet Muslims, but I'll be doing tawaf there. I'll be going around the Kaaba. And can I pray for my parents? Because I really want to pray for my parents.
Yes.
And there's like a lot of differences of opinion, and there's all these things and whatever. And but just when I'm doing tawaf, in my mind, when there's a conversation going on, can I talk? Is it permissible? Am I doing anything wrong? And
Yes.
she looked at me and she said, you know what? Just pray. Just talk in your heart, and He's Allah. He knows you, like, more than any person's verdict.
Subhanallah.
Just trust Allah more. It's your conversation with Allah, and just talk to Him and pray, and then
Yes.
after that, if it doesn't happen, like, God forbid, if it doesn't happen, and we are not destined for being together in the afterlife, then Allah Ta'ala will even remove the sadness from our heart as well. But if He doesn't remove this longing to be with them, then He will do something for it. Like, there would not be a I have one, like, there's one firm belief that inshallah we go to Jannah, but when we go to Jannah, He will not let even a drop of sadness stay in us. And He knows how much we love our parents. He knows how much we love
Alhamdulillah.
everyone. He will take care of us. And He loves us more than, like, we love ourselves. And I know how much I love myself. Like, I get, like, if I get a cut, if I'm going to get an injection, I start to, like, freak out. you know? So if my blood's being taken, I look the other way. But
Same.
yeah, like, that's the reason I couldn't be a doctor. My parents are both doctors, but I couldn't be a doctor because I couldn't handle needles, right? And but the thing is, that's how much I love my own, like, body pain or whatever. But Allah loves me more than that, and He loves me more than that. He wouldn't let me have. Yes, in this life, I will have some struggles. I will have some pains. I'll have some things that I'll have to navigate through. But these are tests, and as our level increases, like when we start kindergarten, we have certain level of tests. Then we go to grade one, we have another level of tests. But the difficulty might be the same, but the tests increase sometimes. And
Yes.
as one ayah which really used to shake me when like, I think it's Surah Ankabut, but I could be wrong. But it's one of the ayahs, and it says that, do you think that you've accepted Islam and you won't be tested? People before you were
Yes.
tested so much that it shook them to the core, and even the prophets cried out, when is the help of Allah coming? Right? And I used to be like, oh my God, like, ya Allah, protect me. I'm very weak. I cannot handle severe tests. Please help me. And if tests are coming my way, make them easy for me, or help me navigate, because I don't know what to do. I'm lost. And, like, that's all the more reason to cling more to the Quran and to the Sunnah, to kind of just get the um like, people learn for knowledge and stuff, but what I find in Quran for myself is my own personal strength, because how else will we get strength? This is the only place where we get strength from our to navigate all these things, all these emotions. You will see prophets going through the similar challenges that we are seeing. And the Prophet ﷺ said to the effect of that, when you're very sad, when you have moments in your life when you feel that the troubles of life have overcome you, and you're feeling, to the effect of, obviously, I'm paraphrasing, that the troubles of life, they overwhelm you, and you are like, think, then remember me and my struggles, and in comparison, your own struggles will feel light to you, right? So one thing is that they recommend is that slowly, inshallah, we will start at some point the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we start to read about his life and the struggles that he went through, our own struggles actually feel like I was telling you, like, his father passed away before he was born. Yes, we might have had good or bad experiences, but we had a father. right? And but then he had other challenges as well, like his wife passed away, his support passed away, then people boycotted him. There were children who threw stones at him so much that he bled and his sandals stuck to his feet. There was like he went to talk to those people and invite them to Islam, and they started stoning him. He was trying to save people from hellfire, and those same people are hurting him. Like how hurt would he have felt? And yet he kept going on and on and on with that mission. Like, so when we learn about the Sira, our own troubles, we find ways to deal with them, if that makes any sense. But inshallah, we will learn slowly. Slowly. Give yourself time and don't um, just trust Allah. Allah
I
knows
do.
us more than He loves us and He understands. He understands our pain very precisely. We don't. We might not. We might feel lost sometimes that we don't know what our pain is like, and sometimes we don't even understand. Like I'm feeling sad, and I'm crying, but I don't know what even to think. But Allah knows, and He
Yes,
will guide us.
yes,
Inshallah.
yes, yes.
Inshallah.
And uh, and how do you think? Because you're so knowledgeable, and I just cannot stop
Inshallah.
asking. I have so very many questions, but I promise this one is the last one. For
No
now.
problem.
uh, well, because I've been studying Islam for at least 4 years, because I met my husband when was it? In 2013, and let's say around 2016, I was already into it, and because he was just good example, how to behave, how to help people, how to show compassion. And I wanted to know what really motivates him, and it was for me, even before I got to know how you're supposed to be, it matched everything I always been. So that's why, it perfectly smoothly became my way of life, officially. And the thing is, my mother, through all those years when I was discovering all those blessings, she would be listening to me, giving her tiny lectures of what I've learned, and in what awe I was, how just amazed I was uh, by reading about all those miracles and the beauty of the religion. And I can tell she is into it. And like I said, after every prayer, I would think of my dad, say that I miss him so much, and hopefully, he will be able to hear that, he will have that message delivered. But I as well ask for guidance for my mama, because she's definitely into it. She understands it, she's curious about it. But the only thing is that she promised my dad that she will stay in Catholicism, so they are not split, in the hereafter, or wherever they both would be, they will be on the same page. And I'm telling her that, we are being so loved, that even if she does this as the right thing, and she accepts Islam, then probably, Allah would know what's in her heart, and she would not be split with her husband in the hereafter. What do you think about that? Because I feel like she's into it, and I just that's the only problem. She's grieving, and she doesn't want to break the promise made to her husband.
Yeah. But Allah Ta'ala controls the heart. You never know what we don't like. We can advise people, we can just keep doing your part.
Yes.
All we can do with like our parents and loved ones is we can share the truth. And Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran as well many times that we cannot open anybody's heart for it. This
Yes.
is like the door to the heart opens from the inside, right?
Mhm.
So we cannot, as much as we want to, we cannot. This is not guidance lies in the hands of Allah alone. Even the prophets could not make anyone accept. Like the Prophet
Yes.
Nuh alayhi salam, Noah, he gave dawah for 900. He had a long life. He gave dawah to people for 950 years. Like generations came and went, and he was giving dawah, calling people to Islam and his loved ones to Islam's. But they couldn't. Like his own son didn't listen to him, right? His own and Prophet Lut alayhi salam, his wife did not listen to him,
Yes.
and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like there were people in his family, like Abu Lahab was his uncle, and he didn't listen to him. And he was the biggest enemy of Islam. In fact, he tried to be on the other side and kill the Prophet even. Right? We don't, we cannot. We cannot force anyone. We can just keep giving them the message, but Allah knows best. Sometimes there have been people like there is one of the Dai, Sheikh Abdul Rahman Green. He was from the Catholic or the Christian, like I don't know which branch of Christianity or Catholicism he was from, but his father actually took his shahada. He kept talking to him about Islam for years, and he didn't. He wouldn't budge, and just days before he passed away, his dad was very, very sick and he took his shahada. And he couldn't, and there's a video of that too. I'll find that video actually. One of my friends, she is a French Canadian and revert, and she used to keep talking to her dad about it for years. She wrote a like long letter to her dad explaining why Islam is a whole thing, religion and everything. She kept giving dawah for years. She used to cry, but she was like, her dad would come to her house and he would drink on the table, on their kitchen table. And she said, but I want him to keep coming. So I didn't want to say no to him because I didn't want him to stop coming. Because if I tell him he can't drink, he would probably not come. But when his dad was there, sometimes it would get so overwhelming. She would get out of the house and just go back door and cry, cry, cry. That, Ya Allah, I don't know how to talk to my dad. I don't know what to do, but just give him guidance. And many years later, and that's not a few days or months, years later, one day just her dad calls him and said, okay, I'm ready. Melissa, I'm ready to take like my shahada. Like, okay. And she was like, really? And like she was bawling over the phone, and they were like, and he took his shahada on the phone, and she called her husband. And like, what I'm trying to say is, it was least, she didn't expect it that time. The whole time that she was expecting, and she would talk to him and she would tell him, it didn't happen then, but Allah knew when is the right time. So inshallah, all we can do is we can pray, and inshallah Allah will guide you. Regarding your dad, we don't know. We hope for the best, but we don't know. Regarding your mom, she's still here, so we can practice, like we can try more for her,
Yes.
inshallah. So you can keep talking whenever you get a chance. Don't overwhelm either, but keep making dua. Allah opens the heart. It is in Allah's hand. When He wants, He will just say be, and it will happen.
Yes.
But He knows the best. So maybe it's because they say when you accept Islam, when you take your shahada, all your sins are forgiven. Like for example, you've just taken your shahada, you're like a brand new baby. Like you are, like I envy you. You don't have much sins right now. I have my own share right now. But Alhamdulillah, you're like a brand new clean baby, and He's like, you would have no sins, right? So maybe Allah Ta'ala will give your mom a shahada at a time when she would be like pure, like her account will be totally clean and pure, and then like, maybe that's better for her. Allah knows best. We don't know. But inshallah,
Yes. Beautiful.
whatever will be the best for her.
Beautiful answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care, no problem. Okay, inshallah. So we will start with our ayat for today. And anybody, please don't feel ever like shy or anything to ask any question. And we are here to support each other, and this is the most important thing, right? So, inshallah, I'll try my best to get. And when I don't know the answer, I'll obviously tell you that I don't know. But anybody else wants to say anything? Or we'll go ahead, inshallah. Okay, I'll go ahead then. So today we'll cover two ayat. We'll cover ayah number 49 and 50. So I'll start with 49 here. So as we said, we are starting with the history of Bani Israel, the children of Israel. Israel is the nickname once again for Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub alayhi salam, just to know a little bit of history, Ibrahim alayhi salam, we all know Ibrahim, and we like Judaism, Christianity, and Islamic faith, they're all monotheistic faiths, and they all go back to Ibrahim. So Ibrahim is a key figure in all these three faiths. And Ibrahim alayhi salam had, there were two of his sons who were prophets, Ishaq, Isaac, and Ismail. And Ishaq's son was Yaqub alayhi salam. Ishaq was a prophet as well. Yaqub alayhi salam was a prophet as well. And Yaqub alayhi salam had sons, out of whom was Yusuf, Joseph, who was also a prophet. And there's different opinions whether other of his sons later became prophets or not. But anyway, so they were all prophets, and there's like a chain of prophets. So they're all called the children of Israel are basically children of Yaqub alayhi salam. So that lineage, it goes from there. Okay, so let's start with the ayah. Wa wa means and, id means when. So it's like when we are telling a story, and when we are saying id, it's like, remember this, when this happened, Can you look back and this, like this happened? So it has that kind of a connotation to it. What is and when najjaynakum. Najjaynakum, it is from the root word of kum is a pronoun which means all of you. Najjaina is noon, jeen, and ya. Najjay, right? So it means to save something, to get freedom from certain kind of a hardship. So there was some hardship, and you're rescued from that hardship. So that's the meaning of Najjay, right? Najjay, and na means for us, we. Kum means all of you. So وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ, and when we saved you, like we got you out of that hardship. You were suffering a hardship and we got you out of it. Min, from, Ali, the people, Fir'aun. Ali Fir'aun means the people of Fir'aun. So again, this is a Hamza. This is not an Ain. So if you look at Fir'aun, the the letter here is Ain, but this one isn't a Hamza. So there's a difference in these two letters. Ali Fir'aun, Ali refers to the people of Fir'aun. So it could be there are two meanings of this. Al could refer to family members. So the family of Pharaoh, like his extended family and all his family community, that sort of a thing. And it also means the followers of someone. Like when we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Ali Muhammad, right? So upon the we say when we are saying the durood, we are saying send peace and blessings upon Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and followers, right? So we are, in fact, when we are saying the durood, we are not just sending blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family, but also upon ourselves, because we are the follower, we are his followers, so we are his al as well in that sense. So anybody who follows somebody or is a family member of somebody, that becomes the people of Firaun, right? So even in English, we say sometimes they were the people of these people. So al refers to that. So وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. So and when we saved you from the people of Fir'aun, yasumunakum. Kum again refers to all of you, plural. Yasumunakum. Yasumunakum, it comes from saum, seen, wow, and meme. What were they doing? What rescuing did they need? They were afflicting you. So saum or refers to a kind of to force a difficult task on someone, to make someone do a difficult task by force. And this kind of affliction, this kind of force, that is oppression that is going on, it is not just any kind of an oppression, it also has aspect of humiliation to it. And like they're not just being oppressed, they were also being humiliated through that oppression. They were being dishonored, disrespected, and humiliated and insulted. And so it has all those connotations in it, just the word. So they're different. In Arabic, what we'll find is for a similar meaning, there are many different words. And like for example, the word love. There are many levels of love, and there are different words for each level of love. Like there are 17 levels of love, I guess, starting from the infatuation, a very light kind of infatuation, to a deeper and deeper and deeper love and caring for someone, until the very last level of love is when you like that love will actually kill you. That love is actually harmful for you, that you will stop eating or drinking. You love something or someone so much that you get like obsessed in the sense that it actually turns harmful for you and it will kill you if you don't check it. That kind of a love. So the different, very precise words in Arabic, right? And the words have much deeper and layered meanings sometimes. So Saum here is an affliction, a force, by making someone do a difficult task and also humiliating them through that. Like there's a lot of humiliation, disrespect, insult, all of that going on. So yasumunakum, who were afflicting you, these people of Firaun, they were afflicting you with, what were they afflicting you with? Su'a, right? So su'a, it's like refers to a very any bad kind of a thing, any bad kind of a deed, um, any deed which kind of has physical or spiritual ugliness. Su, in one sense, the similar root words are used for something smelling like a dead corpse, like a dead body of something, which after some time starts smelling and gets deformed and everything. So there's a lot of disgust to it. So any kind of deed, any kind of a deed, something which is horrible, something that is bad, not just physically but also spiritually, and which kind of disgusts you. Like for example, and it could be small or it could be big. So for example, lying everybody kind of like nobody likes being lied to. The person could be a liar themselves, but even they don't like being lied to, right? So it's like lying. We are all disgusted by lying. If somebody lies to us, we don't like it, right? So it's like a bad kind of a deed, a horrible kind of a deed. So anything bad has which has a bad connotation refers to this word su. So what these people were doing, وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. So they were putting a horrible torment on these people. So what were Ali Fir'aun doing? What kind of horrible um, torment they were putting on these people were يُذَبِّحُونَ. Dhahaba means killing somebody, but yudhabbihu, like rather than dhahaba, like we say dhabiha meat, right? The halal meat which has been so the animal has been slaughtered in a proper way, when we call it dhabaha, right? Dhabiha meat, like that. But this is it's a modification of that. It's a dhabihu. So even you find a difference in the sound of it, dhabaha, and this is dhabihu. What dhabihu means is killing, not just killing somebody or slaughtering somebody, but killing with a lot of planning and doing it in a painful way, in a painfully planned way. So there's a planned massacre of some a big group of people or something, like killing someone, but killing in large numbers and in a planned and painful way. So what these people were doing, Ale Firaun, they were afflicting them with a horrible torment, and they were slaughtering in a planned and painful way abna'akum. Abna is a plural of bani, which is like the children, like we said, Bani Israel, Bani. There are two plurals of the word Bani, Banun and Abna. Both means grammatically they come in different forms, but abna'akum, your sons. So they were literally killing your sons, wa yastahyuna, and letting live. Yastahyuna is comes from the root word ha, ya, and ya, and another word, similar word, which we will learn at different places, haya, also come from ha, ya, and ya, which means shyness, modesty, that kind of a thing. But haya is also means to life. Like when we say read Ayatul Kursi, you say Allahu la ilaha illahu al hayyul qayyum. Right, one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa taala is al hayy, the ever living. Like he is the one who lived, is living, and will live. And all of us, in contrast, all the creation in contrast has a beginning and an end. But he is the all living and always living, and he gives life to everything. Right. So one of his name is al hayy. So hayat is referred to as life as well. So what they were doing is they were killing their sons, the sons of these people, and they were letting live nisa'akum. Nisa refers to women, and nisa refers to both old and young girls. So it's not just older girls; it's both older and younger girls. So it's a collective term. Like you can say, letting live your females. So it could be just your girls, your daughters, and also your older women. So they were nisa'akum, your women. So وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ نِسَاءَكُمْ. So what we saved you from the people of Pharaoh who were afflicting you with horrible torment. They were slaughtering your sons, and they were letting your women live. وَفِي ذَلِكُمْ, wa is and, fi is in, ذَلِكُمْ, that. It's the same as we read in the beginning of Surah Baqarah, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. That, ذَلِكَ, and ذَلِكُمْ is a plural, right? So ذَلِكُمْ, kum is for all of you again. So وَفِي ذَلِكُمْ, and in that, bala'un. Bala is refers to a trial. Now the tests of this life can be both good and bad. Like there's a test in prosperity as well. There's a test in hardship as well. Like in the test in prosperity is when we are getting a lot of blessings in our life. Are we thankful or do we get lost? When we get a lot of gifts, do we remember the one who has given the gifts, or do we get lost in the gifts themselves? Like for example, if somebody makes a warm cup of coffee for us and gets it for us, do we thank the person who's made the coffee and given it to us, or we just start thanking the coffee? Oh my god, thank you coffee, you like literally made me awake, or whatever, gave me some shot of energy, whatever. We thank the person who made it, right? But the that's a test of prosperity, when we have prosperity. And the test of hardship could be different kinds of hardships that we get in our life. Bala is one word in which the test is in terms of hardship. So we're not talking of good tests here in terms of the tests of blessings, but the test of whether we stay, the test of blessing is whether we stay grateful and have the gratitude in terms of those blessings, and those blessings don't corrupt us. The test of hardship is when do they keep bring us back to Allah Ta'ala, do they make us like complaining and bitter by nature. So bala'un is was a test that was very hard, which was has a meaning of trouble and hardship to it. Min rabbikum. Min means from. Rabbikum is two words. Rabb, kum means your. Kum means all of yours. And Rabb is the word Rabb for our God. And we talked about the word Rabb before. It means the someone who not just takes care of you but maintains you. So he provides for you. He takes care of you. He grows you. He grows something which is little into something big. He puts blessings into anything. Like for a seed to grow into a tree, it was just a seed, but Allah Ta'ala grew it. So that's a Rab who maintains and who puts blessings into everything. Azim is great. So what we see here is, and recall when we saved your forefathers, when we saved you, all of you, from the people of Pharaoh, who afflicted you with the worst torment, slaughtering your newborn sons and keeping your females alive. And in that was a great trial from your Lord. And ayah number 50, we'll do that as well before we start to go over the meanings. Wa'id, and when, it's the same as the previous ayah. And when, faraqna. Faraqna, faraqa, it means dividing something into parts. So when something is divided into two or more parts, you call it faraqna. Like faraqna here means and. So the na at the end, it means for and, like we did it. And faraqna, faraq means to divide into parts. And then when something's divided, it's called a firqa. You like even something's divided into parts, like this one firqa, this other firqa, this other firqa. So it's dividing something into different parts. So وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا, and when we parted for you, so when we divided for you into two separate parts, bikum, for you, al-bahra. Al-bahra means the sea. Bahar means sea. And it's referred to, bahar would be used for big seas as well, and it would be used for smaller, slightly smaller, like rivers and things that are connecting to the sea as well, as long as they're like very huge. So basically, bahar can be used in language to refer to any large bodies of water. So big, large bodies of water, they can be called bahar. Wa anjaynakum, and then so we saved you. Then we saved you, all of you. Wa aghraqna, and we drown. Gharaq is drown. To drown something in water. So literally, so aghraqna, and na again refers to and. Sorry, na refers to all of us. Sorry, na refers to we. وَأَغْرَقْنَا, and we drowned ala Fir'auna, the people of Fir'aun. So al again we learned in the previous ayah as well. Al refers to both family and followers. The people of Fir'aun. Wa antum, wa and antum, all of you. Tanzurun, were looking. So nazar means to look. Even in other languages like Urdu, and you say nazar. Nazar means like to look at something, your eyesight or your vision. It's used in many different languages. So antum tanzurun, and you were looking. So so basically this ayah says, and recall when we parted the sea for you and saved you and drowned the people of Pharaoh while you were looking. You were looking at this. This was not something that was very lost for you and you didn't know about it. You were actually looking at this, right? So these are the two ayahs that inshallah ta'ala we'll be doing today. So let's go back to ayah number 49. It says, and recall when we saved you from the people of Pharaoh, who afflicted you with the worst torment, slaughtering your newborn sons and females, and in that was a great trial from your Lord. So there are many things here. First of all, one thing is that this address, these ayats were being talked to, the Prophet ﷺ is reciting these ayat in Medina to the, and the Bani Israel is listening to them. And when he's saying Ya Bani Israel, they are literally the direct audience of the Prophet ﷺ at that time, especially the religious leadership of the Jewish community at that time, and also their common people, right? So when instead of saying, but here it's interesting because instead of saying wa idna kum, instead of saying that we saved your forefathers, although we'll see that in some translations like here, it does not say we saved your forefathers, literally speaking. It says we saved you. But these people are many, many years away. Like this is the time of the Prophet ﷺ, while the people who were saved at the time of Musa ﷺ was literally thousands of years ago. So why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying we are saying we saved you and not them? So first of all, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying we saved you, one thing is that the we that he's saying here, it's a royal we. Again, it's not, it doesn't, it's not a plural we, it's a royal we. Like many kings in Old English, they would say, okay, we pass this order. This is our command. So it's like a royal kind of a majestic sort of a we. It's not plural we. So first thing is that a lot of people have this question that why does, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, why does he refer to himself as we at times in the Quran? So many times Allah ta'ala will refer to himself as we, but whenever anybody is calling on to Allah Ta'ala, it would never be a you all. It would always be you alone, like a singular you. But when Allah Ta'ala is speaking, many times He will speak like a we, and that's like a royal, majestic, declaring His honor, and He has the right to it, right? So it's not like He's claiming something that is not His. The right to majesty and honor is his, and that he has the full right to display it and everything. The times that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use I for himself are two times when he uses it mostly in the Quran when we study those ayat. When he uses I for himself, there are two kind of occasions. Either it is showing a lot of love or it's showing a lot of anger. So when we as we read more of the ayat of the Quran, we'll realize that. But usually, we is used in terms of like a king when there's a command or when there is something like a huge thing that was done or something. So mostly we'll find we in that sense. The second thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we saved you. Now, these people are not them. So, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying you? First thing is because some scholars have said it is because their forefathers were saved. Like thousands of years ago, if Allah ta'ala had allowed their forefathers to drown and or being killed, all of them being killed by Pharaoh and not save them from Pharaoh, these future generations would not be here today. So their presence or their existence depended in terms of this dunya could happen because of that sequence of events, because first of all they were saved. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saving those people was a favor on them too, the current people too. That's why one of the du'as in the Quran is in later on in Surah Al-Ahqaf, it's Ya Allah, allow me to be grateful for your blessings upon me and upon my parents. So one of the thing is whatever blessings our parents got, whether it was intelligence, whether it was money, whether it was resources that we got to enjoy, or that we got some kind of status because of. For example, if our mom did a lot of hard work and raised us, that was a blessing of Allah Ta'ala, not just upon our mom, but upon us, because if she had not done all that hard work, I would not have got all this position in my life. So any blessing that Allah Ta'ala gave to my parents is also a blessing on me by extension, right? So it is, first thing is that saving their forefathers was saving me. Like if my dad was not saved, if my mom and dad were not saved, I would not have existed. Simple as that. Another thing in Islam is that if a person living today is content with something that had happened in the past, it is as if they were among them. So, which is like a bit of a different concept. So I'll read one of the hadith, and that will kind of explain it. So, if a person is, this is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said to the effect of, if a person is sitting where a crime is happening, and his heart doesn't approve of this crime, but and the person does not want to participate in this crime, but he has no way, he is around that crime taking place, but he doesn't approve of it in his heart, and he does not want to participate, and he doesn't participate in it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by his rahmah will free this person of that sin. So that person doesn't get a sin if he's not. So at the time of Bani Israel, for example, there are people in Pharaoh's uh, palace who do not like any oppression that is being done and who are opposing it, but they can't stop it. They don't have the means to stop it, but they don't approve of it in their heart, and they don't participate it in themselves, and they're like, yeah, Allah, I don't want to be a part of this and this, but I'm here, like, what do I do and everything. Then Allah Ta'ala will remove this person from that sin. That person is not sinful in this. Another person, as opposed to this, who is far away from the crime. He's not, the crime is happening somewhere far away, but he sympathizes and craves and wants to be with those people and engage in it. Then this person, even though he is in his home and not participating, he'll get a share of that sin. So what happens is, so for example, if there's some atrocities or some oppression being done, let's say in China, there's like a lot of oppression being done against certain Muslims at this point. And then if somebody living in US would be like, um, sympathizes with those people who are oppressing and is like, yeah, they're doing good and I should be a part of it, astaghfirullah, or whatever. If I were there, I would do that as well, or whatever. Then this person, even though he didn't do the sin, he still gets a sin because he is happy with the sin and he wants to be a part of it. So, Bani Israel at the time of the Prophet, ﷺ, again, I'll mention this again, we are not talking about the day to day Jews of today, not even the day to day Jews of that time, because we are talking literally of the religious leadership many a times of that, that they at the time of the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, they were not ashamed of the things that were done by their forefathers, like all the um, anything, anytime they went against the command of God and they kind of like justified it to themselves, they were actually happy and proud of it. They were like, yeah, we did it, we got away, we can get away with this because we are special. They had that kind of an attitude. And they were not even like ashamed of that. So for example, if uh, a lot of us, we've seen like in the last 100 200 years, there's a lot of oppression, whether it's for indigenous people in these lands or other places around the world where different countries, different European countries kind of overpowered and colonized other countries. In today's people, you'll find different kind of attitude. Today, people from same European descent, some people would be like, I'm actually very ashamed of what was done, and I want to do something good. Like say for example, in Canada and America, somebody is like, okay, there was a lot of injustice done to indigenous people, and I don't approve of it. I don't stand for it, and I wish I could do something to make their pain better, to give them more justice and everything. Then that person does not get the sin. But any person now who still kind of condones the same ideology, even though he's not been a part of those atrocities, like, yeah, so what? We did it. Like, we got the land and it's like ours now. And we are getting all those benefits out of it because, like, if they looted the land and whatever, but we got the land, then that person still gets the sin. So, in a sense, these Bani Israel, these people, some of their religious leadership, they were proud of them. So, Allah Ta'ala is reminding them that, okay, you are a part of them, you're like them. So, think of it, we saved you, right? So in that sense, there's a deeper meaning to that. So Allah Ta'ala is talking about all those people. The second thing is that how did these people end up here? Now I'll just tell the story in a very short thing. So Ibrahim alayhis salam, we touched upon it lightly. Ibrahim alayhis salam built the Kaaba, and he had two sons, and the other son Ishaq, he built the Kaaba with Ismail alayhis salam, and with Ishaq alayhis salam he went to Palestine, and they built the Masjid al-Aqsa, and then obviously it was done later on. It was redone later on with many different prophets, but they were in that region now. And from this region, uh, Ishaq al-Islam's son, Yaqub al-Islam, migrated from here and he went to the other city and everything, and his sons were being raised there. From there, from his sons, the sons were jealous of Yusuf al-Islam. He had 12 sons, and the other sons were jealous of Yusuf and Binyamin, who were the sons they were from a different mother. The other children were from different mother. They got jealous and they thought that our father Yaqub al-Islam loved Yusuf a lot more, so they threw him in the well one day. And from that well, some people found him and they enslaved him and took him to Egypt, where he was sold to a minister's house. And the whole story is in Surah Yusuf, but I'm just giving a very short snippet on how did Bani Israel end up in Egypt. So Yusuf alayhi salam was then sold as a slave to a minister in Egypt, and he was growing up there. And as he was growing up there, he was a very very handsome young man, and his wife tried to seduce him, and Yusuf alayhi salam refused, and then he chose prison over that, and he was imprisoned. When he was imprisoned, he was still talking and calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he was the prophet as well, and he used to interpret dreams. And one time the king had a dream in which he saw basically the meaning of the dream was which Yusuf al-Islam interpreted, and was that there would be 7 good years, right, in this kingdom, followed by 7 bad years in which there'll be a heavy drought all over the world, like the kingdom and the area, where there'll be no food and water and everything. And then the king kind of, basically his innocence got proven, that false charges in the prison. He became a minister. He got a good status in the Egyptian society, and he made people save the food and the water. They channeled the water into reservoirs and saved that water, because of which now, when the drought hit them 7 years later, the whole region, this was the only kingdom who had water and food, and everybody else was going bankrupt and had no food and no water, and everybody would come to them to get their food and everything. So this particular kingdom kept growing and growing and growing and growing, and became more and more and more prosperous. Eventually, Yusuf al-Islam's brothers sought forgiveness, and Yusuf al-Islam forgave them. Then all of them, and he called all of his family there too, to stay with him in Egypt. So that's how Bani Israel moved to Egypt. Now, when they are in Egypt, in the beginning, they were respected a lot, they were honored a lot, because obviously Yusuf al-Islam had that celebrity status, that he was there. And then, as he was calling people to Islam and other people of his descendants, but he passed away. And then uh, different but this kingdom kept prospering and prospering and prospering, while these children of Israel were like the foreigners there, but now they had settled there, so they were kind of immigrants but well settled now here. As opposed to this, the people natives of Egypt of that time, the kings of that time, as they were prospering more and more and more, they developed this theory that they are the sons, or they used to worship the sun, and they would say that, and they call it the sun Ra, so they would call it the Ra god, and they would say that we are the sons, we are the children of the sun. So just as the sun rules over the sky, we rule over the world. So they had unimaginable kind of power, because they had gained all this power through all these years of this extra the resources that they had, and now they had control over a lot of resources and everything. But now, as they kept growing and growing, the Bani Israel, they were not worshipping the Ra god, they were worshipping Allah Ta'ala, right? Because they were the children of Israel. And we know later on in the Quran that Yaqub al-Islam also asked his children on their deathbed, who are you going to worship? And they said, we are going to worship your God, and the God of Ibrahim, and the God of Ismail, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But as these people, and there were a lot of corruption that kept coming to the Muslims of that time, Bani Israel at that time. But they were also, and but one thing was there, they was not worshipping the Ra god. So basically the whole, what happens in most places, and is like, now there was a thing of containing these foreigners, because they don't want these foreigners or these minority group to kind of grow a lot. So Pharaoh, and according to one narration, Pharaoh, which was the ruler now, also had a dream that somebody from Bani Israel would be destroying his kingdom. So he wanted to control the the thing, and he wanted to oppress, like he would oppress these people so much that whether a person is 4 or 5 year old or a 70-year old, they had to do a lot of laborious work. So they were given all the labor jobs. In that sense, they were forced to do the labor jobs all the time, and they were given very low wage and just enough food to survive, not enough food. And alternate years, what they would do is they would do literally like a mass massacre of boys, because he didn't want, Pharaoh didn't want a lot of angry young men to be grown up. So the way to contain them is to not let them think, not let them grow up, right? So he would kill, um, like in a planned way. There were nurses which would go to people's houses when they were pregnant, and when, as soon as the mother had a baby, they would find out if it's a boy, then they would just kill the boy right away. And the soldiers would come, and the boys would be killed, the children would be killed, and the girls would be left to stay alive. Some of the scholars have also said with this that there's also an interpretation here, and there's a subtle hint here, that whenever any group of people are oppressing other people in that kind of a mass oppression, then when they're leaving the girls alive, then there's a hint to it on what people do. We know what do soldiers do when they go to another country and they loot another country. Then what is the kind of typical behavior they engage in with respect to the women of that particular nation or that particular community, when there are riots, or when there are one country overpowering another country, and soldiers are going, and that's why they return with so much mental illness, right? So basically, what is going on? So it's like a subtle hint here that by killing, first of all, by uh, forcing them to do a lot of labor. The Aleph Firaun, they were forcing them to do a lot of labor. Second thing, they were killing their sons, which kind of highlights the plight of Bani Israel and their helplessness. Because if somebody even hurts our child in front of us, how much offended and how much like we just want to like do something, like we just want to like deal with it right away. But these people were so helpless that somebody's coming and killing their children, killing their boys, and they can't do anything. They were so helpless, and they were like such in such a position because again, one of the things that we will keep seeing in the story of Bani Israel up and down again and again is when they followed the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whenever they followed the commands and worshipped God, and whenever they followed all the commandments of being good and following the honesty and praying to Allah alone, then they prospered. Then they were, because they were given this leadership, they were again and again taken out of their hardships. But then they fell back into the same thing. They fell back into corruption and all these things. And slowly and when they got to the bottom of their corruption, then somebody overpowered them. Some other nation overpowered them. And that's how a lot of scholars say that's how any believing community, any believing nation, that's how they're punished by God, in the sense that somebody starts oppressing them and everything when they don't follow their religion in their day-to-day life, and they don't follow the commandments of their God. They call themselves believers, but they're following only ritualistically. They're not following anything in real way. That's what happens. Another perspective to this is that troubles in this dunya, they in this thing, have they come to remind us, to take us back to Allah Ta'ala. It's like a wake up call. Okay, just wake up. Where are you going? And then sometimes because something very hard happens, it wakes us up and we go back to Allah Ta'ala. We are shaken. Some things literally shake us to the core, and we just like it wakes us up from our sleep and we go back. And that's why there's a lot of thing of istighfar is a big deal in our thing, like we were talking before, like seeking forgiveness from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Like, what does a believer do whenever hardship comes? Two things that we are not supposed to do is, one, don't get hopeless. That there are ayat to the Quran in the effect of that only a disbeliever loses hope in Allah Ta'ala. A believer never loses, no matter how hard a situation gets. A believer never loses hope in Allah Ta'ala. And the second thing is, a believer never gets upset with Allah Ta'ala. A believer doesn't say, "Ya Allah, why did this happen to me? Why did you did do this to me? I was so nice. Why did I deserve it? Why did I do?" So a believer doesn't do that. A believer look at something and say, "Ya Allah, whether I know my mistakes or I do not know my mistakes, there might be mistakes I know, there might be mistakes I have done which I don't even know. Just forgive all of it. Ya Allah, just forgive all of them." Right? And so there are duas to that effect too. And there hadith to the effect of that the person who does istighfar, who does Ya Allah forgive me, and just say astaghfirullah, 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 the person who does this a lot, Allah Ta'ala opens doors for them out of all their hardships. Right? And there are narrations to the effect of that people would come to the Sahabas later on and ask them, okay, I'm short of money and like I'm getting a lot of debt. What should I do? And the people, they would be advised, just say a lot of astaghfar. Somebody else would come, my child is sick, what should I do? Just say a lot of astaghfar. Like the answer to everything would be like, just keep asking for forgiveness for Allah Ta'ala, because that will open doors for you. And also we learn the ayat karima which Yunus alayhi salam said when he was in the belly of the whale, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin. So they say, you keep reciting that a lot, it takes you out of all your hardships and everything. So again, the lesson for us in all this is, when we are learning the history, the point of learning the history is not that we're not told different events in the story of in for example in Surah Al-Qasas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we tell you the events of Musa and Pharaoh for a real purpose, not just for entertainment. And what's the real purpose? The real purpose is to help us build our own faith. And how do we build our own faith from this? When we see hardships and everything coming, we remember Allah Ta'ala, we go back to Allah Ta'ala, and we do what we can, and then we keep seeking forgiveness. And inshallah Ta'ala, He opens door for us. And when He opens doors for us, then we praise him and we are thankful for to him that okay, ya Allah, you saved me and everything, right? So this was what was happening at that time. And then in the next ayah, Allah Ta'ala says on how He saved them from the thing of Pharaoh was, وَإِذْ فَرَقْنَا بِكُمُ الْبَحْرَ. So, and recall when we parted the sea for you, again, thus parted the sea for all of you, وَأَنْجَيْنَاكُمْ وَأَغْرَقْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ. So we saved you and we drowned the people of Pharaoh while you were looking. So you were looking at this. What was happened was Musa alayhi salam had so we will actually just go through a little bit of story of Musa alayhi salam, which will help us appreciate what was going on here and everything. So, like we said, Pharaoh, what he was doing was to Bani Israel, he was oppressing these people a lot. He was, and in which there, which was a test for them from their Lord. So the test in the previous ayah we see that this test, although Pharaoh was doing it, yeah, this one point I forgot to mention. Although the Pharaoh was doing it, but the test was from from their Lord. So whenever any punishment or any hardship or anything comes to us or any test comes to us, we should remember that yes, there is a phase to it, that it is coming through someone, but it is from our Lord. So if our Lord has given it to us, He can also take it away from us. He has the power over this. He can obviously make it go away from us and make it easy for us, right? And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did with this. So if you just rewind a little bit and see the history again for Musa alayhi salam, what's happening here and how did these people get saved and how did they reach to this point? These two ayat, they're giving like a synopsis, like like in sometimes in some big movies or some like things, you have a 30-second synopsis of like a whole history and then you go through things in detail later on. So this is like a little synopsis in two ayat. Allah Ta'ala has given us a synopsis of the whole um, like Pharaoh and his oppression and how they got out of it and everything. But and we will see it in detail as well slowly later on. But for now, let's just go through the story in detail. So Pharaoh, he's oppressing the children of Bani Israel. He has made them into a slaves. He doesn't want them totally gone either because he needs the slaves to do all the manual work and labor. So he doesn't want them out. He doesn't want them to be finished as a race, but he wants to control them. And to control them, he doesn't want too many boys growing up. So he keeps getting rid of the population. He engages in this population control and inhibiting their growth and killing all their sons and everything. And so he's doing all of that at that time. In this one of the and he used to do it alternate years when he would kill the sons, and one year he would let them live, one year he would kill them. Musa alayhi salam was born in the year when the children were supposed to be killed. Now, subhanAllah, this is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have chosen Musa alayhi salam to be born in a year when the children were not being killed. Like Harun alayhi salam was his elder brother, but he was born in a year when the children were not being slaughtered. So he survived. But Musa alayhi salam was born later. But it is the Allah Ta'ala shows his miracle. Like, okay, you were trying to do this, and right under your nose, like he will become a prophet. He'll not just grow up, but he'll grow up in your palace. And so what happened was Musa alayhi salam was born in that time. So the soldiers are coming, the soldiers are going around everywhere, and there is this child who's born, and Musa alayhi salam's born, and the child's crying. So what did Allah Ta'ala give wahi to his mother now, as Musa alayhi salam's born, to feed the child? And when the soldiers are coming everywhere. Now there's such a wisdom in that because a mother would be paranoid and nervous that okay, my child's going to get killed and everything. But Allah Ta'ala gave her the wahi first of all to feed the child. That would when a child is feeding, taking his feed, then obviously there's no noise coming. There's no noise coming that there's a child here and everything. The child's not crying and there's no sound at all. Otherwise, if you try to calm the child and try to make him not cry, that's not going to work. But by feeding, the child's working. And then there's another wisdom in that we'll see in a few minutes. So the mother feeds the child, and then Allah Ta'ala told her to put him in a basket, and then put the basket in the water in the river Nile, which was flowing. Now again, in that too, there was a big test for the mother, but Allah Ta'ala calmed her heart down, as comes in other parts of the Quran, that it was the most difficult thing to do, to put your own child, a newborn child, into a basket and let him go into the river. Now this river Nile is not just um, a very calm river. It's a very fiery kind of a river, which has a lot of, the river is very like strong and has a lot of force to it. And it also has crocodiles and it has like all sorts of things in it. But she's asked to put in, Allah Ta'ala calmed her heart down that don't worry, we will reunite you to your son. Nothing will happen. We will save your son. So she put the child in the basket and the thing, and there the river flew. The path of the river was that it passed now through the Pharaoh's thing, and the basket was found by Asiya, which was the wife of Pharaoh herself. And it's so the way it basically reached near the palace where the queen, the Pharaoh's wife Asiya, was there, and she found the basket, and they did not have any child at that time. And she looked at the child, and Allah Ta'ala put the love of the child, like Allah Ta'ala made Musa alayhi salam or Moses such that anybody, one of those children, when you look at them, you're like, oh, such a cute baby, like that. He had like that kind of a thing. So Asia looked at him and she was like, she really wanted to take that child, and she took that child to Pharaoh, and she said, why don't we adopt this child and make him our son, all right? And without hesitation, Pharaoh had a slight hesitation first and thought maybe this is the child that I had a dream about, and like, but then Allah does whatever He wants. Allah put the love of that child even in the heart of Pharaoh. So now this child, now the Pharaoh said, okay, fine, we will raise this child and we'll take this child and we'll raise him as our own. And now, but after some time, what happens is after a couple of hours, now this child starts crying because this child is hungry. And now this child will not take, they called a lot of vet nurses and different people, but this child will not take feed from anyone else because remember the time before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had inspired the mom to feed the child once before putting there. So the child has already taken a feed from his mom before. So he's refusing to take feed from any other vet nurse. So different vet nurse come, and then he is not taking any feed. He's not eating or drinking anything, and the child's crying, crying, crying. And some traditions also mention that Musa alayhi salam had 3 days of fasting as a baby because like he wouldn't for 3 days he wouldn't eat. That's according to some narrations, of course. But there was his sister, Musa Islam's mother, had asked his sister, his elder sister, to go walking and keep an eye on the basket. So this sister had come nearby, and she was seeing all these things happening. That okay, there are vet nurses coming and everything. They have taken the child, and then this is her brother, right? But she couldn't say that because if she says that, obviously they'll kill her or kill the brother. So she doesn't say any of that. So she goes there and she says she asks the woman what's going on, what's all this happening, and they tell her what's going on, the different vet nurses that are coming, and the king has taken a child as his son, and there are different vet nurses coming from all over the place, but he's not taking a feed from anyone. So she suggests, you know what, I know actually a family. She might be, I know a woman who might be able to help you, who might be able to feed that. And that was her mom, that was Musa Islam's mother. But she didn't say that because like she was street smart like that. She knew that if she said that, then obviously they are not going to let him live, right? So she said, yeah, I can suggest someone, maybe you can try. I can bring her if you want. So she went back, she got her mom, and the mom came and she fed the child, and Musa Islam drank obviously now. So now the mom of Musa alayhi salam, she became the niece of Pharaoh now. So Pharaoh, what he did was he asked the mom to stay at the palace, but she refused. She says, "No, I have other children. I think I cannot live here." So then Musa alayhi salam was sent back to the mom for feeding, and every time he used to be sent there, gifts used to go from Pharaoh's palace to their house. So there are many gifts and many resources that are going from the Pharaoh's palace to Musa alayhi salam's house, so much so that they were given so much wealth and everything that other siblings were also raised well with that money and everything. And Musa alayhi salam was raised at both his own mother's house and at the palace. And as he grew up, one day, so he used to in Bani Israel's time, and that time only time people used to have a break was at 2 hours in the afternoon. And that time, what he would do is he would go out and he would help people. As Musa Islam grew up and he grew up to a very strong man. So he went out and he would help people. He would go and help different people with their work, and he would help anytime he would find. He was a prince, literally. But what he would do is instead of he had all the wealth. He was the prince of the most powerful kingdom of that time. Yet he would go out and help people in the afternoon. He would do good things for different people. And one day he saw one person from Pharaoh's tribe hitting another person from Bani Israel tribe and everything. And Bani Israel, the person asked and shouted for help. Musa alayhi salam went to help and he punched the soldier or the person from Pharaoh's tribe. And Musa Islam, mashallah, was such a strong man that just one punch, he was trying to help this person, but just with one punch, the person died. The soldier just passed out and died. And then news spread out, and then everybody found like this was going on. And there were soldiers of Pharaoh at that time who were already not very happy. Like, this is a person from Bani Israel, and just because the king has accepted it, we have to kind of live with him and serve him as a prince. So they were always like, they were not happy with the situation, but they could not do anything about it because the king has taken him as a son. But now they got an excuse. They were like, okay. So another man came to know of their plans. Now these all ministers and soldiers, they're planning something. They're planning to kind of literally make it a scene and kind of use this excuse to kill Musa alayhi salam, because they were already very upset with Musa alayhi salam. They didn't want him because they were like, this is a person from a race beneath us, so why should we let this person stay here, right? So another man who knew about this came running to Musa alayhi salam and said, they are planning to kill you. So you run away from here, you go away from here. And Musa alayhi salam left. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him to Madian, where when he was in Madian, and I'm telling all this story in very quick way, but obviously through the Quran we learn different details of all these instances. But just so that we can appreciate it. So when he was in Madian, which is another city, he saw a lot of people who were feeding their animals with water. They had all their animals and sheep and everything, and they were giving water to them. But there were two girls who were standing a bit away, and they were waiting for all the men to be done because the men didn't look like very decent kind of men. And these two girls, just two girls, were there who had their animals, but they wouldn't bring their animals there. They were just waiting there. So Musa alayhi salam went and asked them what were they doing, and they said like, we're just waiting for them. We don't want to go in all these men and everything, and our dad's very old basically. So he said he just took the animals from them. He went inside because again he's a very strong muscular kind of a man. So he takes those animals, he feeds them, he lets them drink all the water, he brings them back, gives it to them, and goes back and sits under the tree. He doesn't do anything. So one of the girls went home. They tell their father. The father sent one of the girls back to get Musa alayhi salam so that he could pay him and talk to him for his help and thank him and pray him. When he comes, one of the girl kind of hints to her dad that she kind of likes this man because he's a decent person. He helped them and everything. And he didn't even wait to receive anything. He just, after he helped, he just went away and sat there. So he obviously has a lot of qualities and he's strong as well, right? So he, the father talked to Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam told his whole story to the father, what has happened so far and everything. And the father said, okay, you can marry my daughter and stay with me for 8 years to 10 years, and you can work for me and you can live in this house. And basically they worked out an arrangement or something. He stayed there for 10 years. After that, he missed his home and he took his wife and he started to go back home. Now he's going back to Egypt. On the way, he was around already 40 years at that time. So he saw a fire at a distance on the top of a mountain while going back home. Now this and then he went up, but it was not a fire there. It was like a lot of light, and he basically got prophethood there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to him and told him he's a prophet. He got two miracles. One was his hand. When he put his hand in his cloak and then he took it out, it was very shiny, bright hand, and then like a torch sort of a thing even. So you can so he could do that. Allah Ta'ala gave him that miracle. Another miracle was that he took his staff, his stick that he used to walk with, help with, and used to strike on things and everything. That staff, when he threw it on the ground, he turned into a snake, and if he picked it up, it would turn back into a staff. And at that time, then Allah Ta'ala told him that go and speak to Pharaoh. You have to go back to Pharaoh, basically the same place where they have shoot at sight orders for you many years ago. But you have to go there and you have to talk to Pharaoh and invite him to Islam. right? And it was, and Allah Ta'ala said, talk to him nicely and softly. Maybe he will listen. Go and talk to him. And Musa Islam said, Ya Allah, you're giving me prophethood. I need some help. And why don't you give it to Harun al Islam, my brother as well? So at this time, then he went to the Pharaoh. There they had like a little, he talked to Pharaoh. They had a little dialogue, which we'll learn later on. And then he threw the staff, it turned into a snake, and everybody said, this is magic. We'll have a contest with you from the magicians, because with the magicians, and we'll defeat you and your magic. So then there was a whole event that was organized, and a lot of magicians were called from all over the kingdom, and they were the finest magicians were called, and then they were supposed to compete with Musa alayhis salam. So they threw their ropes, and they kind of like they had those tricks of the eye when it looked like snakes, when they threw their ropes and things, and they looked like they were wiggling and they were snakes. And when Musa alayhis salam threw his staff, it turned into a big, huge snake, and it ate up all their sticks. Magicians, all of like right away realized this is not magic, this is a miracle, because we know magic, we know how to do the tricks of magic, and this is no trick. We know that, and all they accepted Islam right away. They said, no, we become Muslim, we submit, because this is, we recognize this is not magic and everything. And but Pharaoh and his people did not accept. Some people did, like his wife Asiya, she accepted Islam, but a lot of other people did not, and they kept trying to take out Musa alayhis salam, and they kept trying to harm Musa alayhis salam. But anytime they would, their enemies would plan to kill Musa alayhis salam, when they would go out to kill him, something would hit the whole nation, like a plague would hit the nation. Another time there was like an army of locusts that would attack a nation. Like there were different things that happened. Anytime they went to kill Musa alayhis salam, they were not able to do so. They were contained by some kind of a, either some disease would break out or something else would break out, and they would not be able to kill them, right? And up till, so it came to a point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told them to invite them again and again and again. But when they did not listen, after a point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Musa alayhis salam to take all the Bani Israel and leave. They had to leave and go near the water. And as they all moved, one night they all asked to move. As they moved, and they all, so there were thousands upon thousands of people, all these Bani Israel, the whole clan, the whole city is empty of all the people from Bani Israel, and they're all went out, and they went reached near the water. When they reached near the water, Pharaoh and his army had followed them from behind. Like they came to know that okay, all of them are not there. So the whole army, Pharaoh said, okay, now we'll finish them once and for all. So they followed them behind, and they had planned to kill them, all of them, at one go now, because it's like, okay, this is too much now. We're just gonna get rid of all of them now. When they reached the water, now when they reached the water, the people started complaining, yeah, Musa, we are killed now. We are finished. Like there's water in front of us. We can't go anywhere. We are thousands. We have got like old people, young people, children, infants. We've got all ages people with us, and we've got an army behind us who's bloodthirsty for us. What are we going to do? And Musa Islam said, don't worry, my God will guide me. My God is with me and he will guide me. And Allah Ta'ala asked him to strike the staff. He did not know what's going to happen, but he struck the staff and the sea parted. Now, this is an incident that is there in not just Islamic history, but the Christian history and the Jewish history. They also have it very well documented. In fact, we fast on the 10th day of Muharram, the day of Ashura, in honor of this, that the sea was parted at that time, and the Jews used to fast for this day even before. So anyway, they reached there and the sea got parted, and Bani Israel, they walked through this, the whole community, the thousands of people, they're walking through this. And as they were walking through this, the people behind, the army of Pharaoh, started following them there too. They kept following, but once the last Bani Israel was out of the water and just the Pharaoh's army was inside, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked the sea to close, and they drowned, all of them. The whole army of Pharaoh drowned while they were there, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says at the end of it, while he's explaining this whole incident, this whole history is captured in these two ayat. And it's then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wa antum tanzurun, and you were looking, you've seen this, you know this, you know very well, this is a very well known incident in your history. This is not something that is just new. You know it, like your people who were there at that time, Bani Israel, they saw this happening with their own eyes, and whatever they did after that was after seeing at this with their own eyes. And you have read about this, you know about this, and you know with full certainty that it has happened. Wa antum tanzurun, while you were looking at this. So the same parting of the sea, which became good for some, which became a means of rescue for the children of Bani Israel, became a means of other people, the army of Pharaoh being drowned, right? And the thing with this kind of closes the first chapter of, so Musa alayhi salam's life, we can divide it into two parts. One part was the whole getting of prophet, his childhood and getting prophethood and going to Bani Israel and Egypt and calling them to Islam and then rescuing from the time of Pharaoh. And the other part, the second part, is receiving of the Torah and everything. So we'll learn about the next part, inshallah, next time. So we'll stop here for now, inshallah. So for today, we will finish with these two ayat. I'll read the dua first, and then if anybody has any thoughts, then we can discuss. I don't mind staying, but if anybody has to leave or leave after that, you can leave, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Ya Allah Ta'ala, forgive us and help us to follow the path of those who were righteous, who you were pleased with, who you were happy with, and who you are reunite us with all those people that you are happy with later on, and make our life easier and make our afterlife easier. Forgive all our shortcomings that we do and help us to stick to the path of Islam. Help us to stick to the right path and make things easy for us. Ameen ya Rabb. Okay, inshallah. Would anybody like
Amen.
to share anything?
This was I kept coming in and out, Nidhi, because I had to be somewhere. But this is the prophet that I know the most, the history of the prophets. But I was always inspired by Musa alayhi salam. And the amazing part when the sea splits and he's like the amount of faith uh, when when they were at the sea. I heard it, but I don't know if it's in Quran. But the people say, "Did you bring us here to kill us?" or something like that. They say like that. I don't know the exact words, but at
Yeah,
that time, the amazing faith, my Lord will guide, and that's it. They didn't know what is going to happen. They have never seen in their lives that a sea would split. Who would ever imagined this miracles and all these so many miracles in Musa alayhi salam's life? These are like the literal miracles, and I like Musa alayhi salam so much, and I know him the most of the prophets.
mashallah. Yes, he is amazing. And he's actually the most mentioned prophet by name as well in the Quran. And yes, what you're saying, it is mentioned in the Quran. We will come to it later. But in Surah Shura, a lot of, if you just read the translation of Surah Shura, it will give you a lot of details about this. But then many times in the Quran, he's most mentioned in the Quran. So there are many times, and he actually used to. One thing I remember very
I heard
beautiful.
the Pharaoh at that time was Ramesses when the sea was about it. That was, and Ramesses, I think at that time asks Allah Ta'ala, help me or protect me, something. And then Allah Ta'ala says, now, now. I heard it, but I don't know how far it is true. I didn't investigate my own part, but
Yes, it is
that's
true.
so
It is
amazing.
there it is there. The words are there in the Quran. Later on we will see.
Even the
Yeah,
biggest of the biggest people, the strongest of the strongest, the kings of the kings, bow to Allah Ta'ala when the time comes.
yeah,
Yes.
Yes, he
yeah.
did that when it was actually too late, and then he said, refused help, but he said that he will be example of disobedience, right?
Yeah. Mashallah. That's right. It's very, very interesting. So it's
It
your
is.
the story of Musa alayhi salam. It's like it kind of just builds your faith. One thing really beautiful is Musa alayhi salam actually prayed to Allah Ta'ala that he wanted to be from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that was one dua which was not granted to him. Like all prophets prayed for that, or because they were all waiting for the last prophet. Everybody wanted to be from the ummah of the last prophet, but only Isa alayhi salam will get to live that when he comes back, inshallah. But one of my mentors, she just says that, can you believe it, that the dua that Musa alayhi salam what really wanted, but Allah Ta'ala has already given it to us. Like we should be so thankful just to be a part of this ummah, that Allah Ta'ala loves us so much. Alhamdulillah.
Nidhi, why? Why is it so important being part of this ummah?
Because this is the prophet. There's a lot of like there's a seal of prophethood. So he was the peak of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is the leader of all the prophets. Like there are prophets, and
Uh-huh.
he's the imam. If you think of, he's the imam of all the prophets, even. So
Okay.
he's the leader of the leaders, right? And he is the Habibullah. So he is the one who is beloved to Allah. And until after he came, until the end of times, Allah Ta'ala has linked his name to the name of the Prophet. So anybody who accepts Islam now cannot just say La ilaha illallah. You have to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So it's like his name is forever linked to the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's like he's the person that Allah Ta'ala loved so much, and he loved Allah Ta'ala so much that and he was like the best of creation, the best of human beings. But we learn more about it slowly. It's like you can't even, people who talk about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for hours upon hours have not even scratched the surface yet. Like it's like that. That and one thing I found really like amazingly crazy. It actually like about knowing about the Prophet ﷺ first literally had it was one of those things that inspired me towards Islam as well, because I used to learn from one of my kids' teachers who was like half my age. She was 18-year-old when I was like nearing 30s, but she was teaching me things about Islam, and I was not sure whether I wanted to be a Muslim, but I was just curious. So I used to learn a little bit from her. And one time there was a lot of like things going on in the media about the Prophet ﷺ, which was like in Denmark there were a lot of cartoons being made and things, and I was just curious about like how she would react, because I saw people getting angry and stuff, but I wanted to see what somebody who had knowledge, what her reaction would be. So I just asked her, what is your opinion about all this? And I had never seen in my life such a reaction. She didn't say a word, her head bowed down, and tears slipped out of her eye. And I was amazed, how can anyone love someone so much that you don't like? I've seen people getting angry in the name of love, but seeing so much hurt and pain on somebody's face just because somebody else had said something disrespectful about the person. I was like, how can anyone love someone so much? I want to find out more about this prophet, and want to know what this love is, and that kind of like, I want to know why, how can you love someone so much, and how does that person love you back, like. So I don't know, like it's a big topic. We'll talk about it one day. But he is the basically he's the seal of prophets. He is the prophet that every prophet was waiting for. Like if they had to promise Allah Ta'ala when they became prophets, when they promised Allah Ta'ala that if the last prophet comes in our time, because nobody knows the future, only Allah Ta'ala knows when what's going to happen. They would say that if the last prophet comes in our time, we will accept him and we will follow him. And we will like basically he will be our leader. And he is the leader of everyone, obviously, in all the prophets. He led their salah, and there's a miraculous journey called Isra and Miraj, and see he led all the prophets in a prayer. But we learn about all of that slowly, inshallah. But he is literally the seal of all prophets.
The thing is, I know very little about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I know very little about him, but the more I'm knowing, it's like amazing. Once he cried till his whole beard is so wet that somebody buried a little baby in the sand, a female baby in the desert. When he heard that, he cries so much that his whole beard is wet. Like so much love for a person that he doesn't even know.
Yeah,
It's so amazing.
yeah. Inshallah, we will after some point. I plan to, but after some point, inshallah, we'll start a Sira class at some point. Not right now,
I
but
heard it's the hadith that we need to know more. Is it Sira or hadith?
so hadith is the things that the Prophet said, his words or his actions, and every little action or every little saying or every little thing that he said or did is documented. That's a hadith, and it gives lessons for all of us. Sira is like his biography, so in like a running sort of a way. So both are important,
Okay.
right? Okay. So anything else from today's lesson? Anybody else wants to share anything that I didn't cover or anything that made you think about anything else? Inshallah.
Well, I want to ask one thing because we were given free will, and at the same time, sometimes you hear that Allah planned this or that for us. And for example, or that he can guide whoever he wills, and so Pharaoh, he was not guided because of his free will. He chose not to accept Islam, or Allah planned for him not to accept it so he can be an example of disobedience, and what happens if you disobeyed, and what kind of punishment you get. Which one was it?
So Pharaoh got the message of Islam. He understood the message of Islam. He got it. He was sinning. He was killing the children. He was mass murdering baby boys in thousands every other year. He was doing a lot of oppression. When Musa alayhi salam came, he recognized Allah Ta'ala many times, right? So it was not just any normal kind of a thing. He declared himself God. He said, he made people say that I am the God. And he actually used this phrase. It's there in the Quran. He says, I am your Lord most high. So worship me, not God. So he wanted to be, and people worshipped him, like in his own people. They regarded the pharaohs as the gods, and that's why they wanted to like live forever. And there's the whole thing of that. So it's not just any level of thing. The free will, it's like Allah Ta'ala gives you guidance, but then you have to, it's like a gift. You have to accept it. The gift will come near you, but you have to open your heart for it yourself. There is free will there, but in terms of guidance, guidance is one thing that it does not. We get food in this life. Allah Ta'ala takes care of all our needs: food, water, whatever physical desires we have, everything will be taken care of. But hidayat, guidance is one thing. We'll have to ask for it, and then we'll get it. It's so precious that you won't just get it. Like it will come near you, but you'll have to ask for it. Each one of us, we know that in our own hearts, we have asked Allah sometime. At some point in our lives, we have asked, we didn't even know the name Allah. We must have asked, oh God, whoever you are, like just guide me to whatever is the truth, or guide me to whatever is right. And Allah Ta'ala guides you. As long as we have humility and we ask Allah to guide you, He guides us. But if somebody, even after knowing it, doesn't accept it because they don't want to lose their status in the society, they don't want to lose become equal to everybody else. The problem is that if we become equal to everybody else, we'll have to give rights to everybody else, and they don't want to do it, right? So they want to stay like in the elite kind of a thing. And there are many other reasons. But Pharaoh has a lot of, not just one reason. Allah Ta'ala sent Musa alayhi salam to him to invite him. He sent his prophet to Musa, and while to Pharaoh, he sent his prophet Musa to Pharaoh. And while sending Musa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Musa alayhi salam, speak softly to Pharaoh because he might listen, right? And that says a lot to the person who's a mass murderer of babies. Like killing a baby is not just like killing a person is bad, but killing a baby is like you have to be a special kind of heartless brute to kill a baby, right? But that person was killing, mass murdering babies. And then Musa Islam is asked to go and speak to that person politely and to be soft to him and invite him with love and say, come back to your Lord. This is your Lord. Come back to him. Even though he will start to abuse you, you have to still be nice to him. He will start to say mean things to you, which will shake you to the core. You would want to retort back. You want to like squeeze his neck and get it out of it, but you won't, don't do it. You have to still speak softly to him and call him to Islam. And that's what Musa Islam did. But even after
I
all of that,
understand.
he still said no, you know, and he understood it because when a plague would hit, he would say, Musa, they would come to Musa and say, to Musa Islam, please pray to your Lord to remove this hardship from us. And when Musa would pray and the hardship would go, then they'll go back to their own thing. This happened again and again in like 9 years or something.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Anybody
Nidhi,
else?
if Ali is done, I have one question.
Sure.
Sorry, if anybody has a question, they can go.
Okay, Sister Tahira and Sister Isra and Sister Sarah, if you would like to say anything, then you could say, then we will go back to Sister Window, inshallah.
I'll just say salam alaikum. Jazakallah for the class. And not much to say. I do love Surah Taha, and it makes me emotional when I think of how Allah chose Harun to be Musa's helper. I don't know, when I get to that ayah, it makes me really emotional. Yasser Qadi has really good lectures on the tafsir of this story.
Yeah.
Anyway, assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much. Okay, you're just listening and enjoying. Thank you so much, Dara. Isra, would you like to say anything?
No, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for your efforts for this class. I really enjoy it.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Sister Bindu, yes, you can go ahead.
Nidhi, in one place they say your babies were killed and the mothers were left alive, and in that was a great torment. I don't know if I missed that part, but why is it considered a super big torment? Because if the mother loses the baby, like in a brutal way, and that's very painful for the mother, is that why that was told, or is there more meaning behind that?
So there's a little bit more when they said they kill abna'akum. So I'll go back to the ayah actually here. It said in this here, it says in ayah number 49, it says they were slaughtering your sons, your baby sons, like which abna'akum refers to the newborn baby boys, and letting live nisa'akum. So nisa doesn't just mean mothers, it means girls and ladies. So females of every age. So when they're leaving the girls, it's a hint towards the kind of brutalities that will be done to the girls. And which is, we all know, when any force takes over another force and there are women there, what is done to the women after that. So there's a lot of physical and sexual and torment kind of a thing that is. So it is hinting at the kind of honor, and it is for any people who are honorable to see their women being abused is not is the hardest of thing. It's like honor thing, right? So not only were they persecuted in a way that they were killed and humiliated, but that the hint here of the word humiliation, the yasumunakum, it is the kind, and the su here is the kind of azab which is these two words, they refer to the kind of azab, the kind of torment, that oppression they were facing, which was also humiliating and dishonoring, and which is for any respectful person, it is the hardest thing to bear about their women being dishonored.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're
Jazakallahu khair.
wait. Okay, so if there is nothing, we'll call it a day then. Inshallah, we'll speak next week. And if anybody has anything else, please don't hesitate. I don't mind, instead of 5 or 10 ayahs, we even go through one ayah. That's all right. We don't mind that. But if any questions, please go ahead. Don't hesitate at all. Okay, inshallah. So we'll just read the dua once more. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Have a good day, ladies, and please remember me in your duas. Any shortcomings in this are my own. Any goodness in the whole class, anything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. May Allah ta'ala accept from all of us, and may He reunite us just as He has united us in this world. May He reunite us under His arsh on the day of judgment and in Jannatul Firdaus in the Akhirah. Ameen.
Ameen. Rabbul Alameen.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Nidhi.